Division of any two integers. Let's say we have 6 and 2. 6 and 2 are both integers. Remember, integers, this cool symbol Z is the numbers that are integers. They're represented by whole numbers, like 1 and 2 and 3, and their negative opposites, like -1 and -2 and -3, and 0. All these numbers are all integers. So if you take any two integers, what you're always going to get is what's called a rational number. And that's kind of a reciprocal definition, because a rational number is a fraction of one integer over another. Even if you take something like 1 and you divide it by 2, you get 0.5 or 1/2, and that is, they're both rational numbers. So integer, integer, divide them, you still get a rational number, and this applies to positive and negative, and so forth. However, there's an important thing to remember, that any calculator you enter where you're dividing by 0, what you will get is something like this, undefined. So any number, x, divided by 0 is undefined. Doesn't matter if you take 1,000 and you divide it by 0, or 5.24 and you divide it by 0, or 5 and divide by 0, or -5 and divide by 0. All of these have no meaning. You might be thinking of the reverse if you're thinking the answer is 0, because 0 divided by anything is 0. Now let's explain the difference between 0 divided by anything and, well, in this case, not just x, but anything divided by 0. So anything divided by 0 has no answer, but 0 divided by anything is 0. And this makes a lot of sense if we just stop to talk about it. So let's start with 0 divided by anything. One of the ways of picturing division, and I think it's very useful in this case, is to think of taking something, let's say a box of cereal, and if you divide this one box of cereal to 3 people, or 4 people, let's say, then everyone would get 0.25 of that cereal. If you took one box of cereal and gave it to 10 people, each person would get 1/10 of that cereal. So you can divide 1 by different amounts and you get different numbers. But 0 is special because, let's say you didn't have anything to begin with. There's nothing there. Well, if you have nothing and you give nothing to 2 people, they still get nothing. If you give it to 3 people, you get nothing. If you give it to 1 person, you get nothing. 4 people, 5, 6. So it doesn't matter how much you divide this nothing, you still get nothing. So 0 divided by anything is, well, 0. It's nothing. You had nothing to begin with. The idea of dividing by 0 is a problem, and take 2. When we take any number, or anything really, let's say any number in this case, and we divide it by 0, it could be written like this: anything, any number, divided by 0, we get a result that's undefined. In other words, we don't really have a way of defining what this even means. And part of the reason for that is that if you have something like the number 6 apples, and you're told to divide them to 2 people, well, if you have 6 apples, divide them to 2 people, each person gets 3 apples, and everyone's happy. But if you have 6 apples and you divide them to nothing, well, what does that mean? Well, if you divide to 1 person, that's easy. Everyone gets all 6 apples. But how do you even divide to no one? You see, when you're dividing, you're giving or redistributing what you have to a new amount, to a new location, either 1 location or 2 locations or whatever. But if there's a no location, what does that even mean? So in other words, if you have 6 and you divide it to nothing, where do you go? Where do you take those apples? You put them over here. If you split them to 2 or 3 or something, you're dividing them not by nothing, but by something. So dividing by nothing has no meaning. So anything divided by 0 is undefined. Another way of thinking about it is, let's look at 6 divided by 2. That's 3, because not only are you dividing 6 into 2 groups, but also you're finding out 2 times what, which is 3, gives me 6. Same thing with 12 divided by 4. You're finding out, well, it's 3 because 4 times 3 is 12. Or let's say you take 18 and you divide it by 9. That gives you 2 because 9 times 2 is 18. So in each of these cases, you're finding out what you need to multiply this number by to get back to this one. Well, 6 divided by 0, what does that equal? Well, let's go back to this example. 6 divided by 2 is 3 because 2 times 3 is 6. So the question is, what number multiplied by 0 gives me 6? Is there a number? The answer is no. There is no number. Why? Well, let's go back to our idea of multiplication. No number times 0 is 6 because 0 times anything is still 0. So let's say you have 0 groups of 6. Well, you have 0. You have 0 groups of 12. You have 0. 0 groups of 18. You have nothing. Anything times 0 is still 0. So 6 divided by 0 can't be anything. Because, again, you'd have to find a number times 0 that gives you 6. And that just does not exist.